much for joining. Oh, there you go. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the virtual panel on mental health and innovation. So, my name is Wiley, and I'm working this summer at YIC, and I have the pleasure of moderating the discussion. And we're joined by the four lovely panelists, Grisha, Jess, Amanda, and Scott. So, I'm just gonna hand it over to you guys for a moment, if that's okay, to do a brief little 1 minute or so introduction for the participants joining tonight. Anyone can feel free to kick it off if they'd like.
I'll go first. So my name is Jessica or Jess. I go by she, her pronouns. In Professionally, as some of y'all may have seen this summer here with YC as the summer program lead coordinator. Outside, I am in hopefully the last two courses of my BA in history and geography. Fingers crossed. But outside of all of that, I help out in terms of mental health advocacy where I can. So through jack.org, CAMH's Youth Engagement Initiative, as well as in the past, Frame through their Groundbreakers program, and Wisdom to Action, as well as Kids Help Phone as a crisis counselor in the past. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Wonderful, thank you. Carisha, Amanda, Scott, any one of you can feel free.
Hi, I'm Grisha. I was a judge in Alumni of Climate Change Makers, and our team won for 2023. My background is in psychology, and that actually led me to going into the entrepreneurial journey because of my own personal mental health struggles. Um, which ended up with me creating Love in Mind and becoming a climate action facilitator as well. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
I'll go next. Yeah. Hi, everybody. This is probably going to be one of my maybe fourth time joining a mental health discussion with YIC. It's very fitting because I ended up actually starting my startup. It was in mental health. We are transitioning it into a non-for-profit in the next year. So super excited about that. But yeah, my background is from Toronto. I wanted to go teach, and I went and taught in a small town off the east coast of Quebec. During COVID is when I discovered teaching is not for me, but my heart was in my classroom and was with my teacher colleagues. So I ended up starting my mental health startup for teachers. So we built like a community online. We also have like retreats. We run workshops. We run a lot of things just with teachers in mind. So we called it Anna now. It used to be TAP. Now it's Anna for Teachers. We basically have the student Anna in mind. It's a pseudonym for a student that we couldn't help, but we wanted to help. But we don't want teachers to lose themselves in the process of helping and supporting their students. Yeah, so I now run that as a non-for-profit. I also did a lot of marketing work for a lot of just high functioning influencers in the health and wellness space, which a lot of them were psychologists and therapists. So I learned a lot from them. And then I have a psychology background as well. And now I'm in tech sales. So I sell tech because I do want to learn how to better position myself in the B2B world. And I don't have experience in that. So I took on a little job for B2B sales. So if you guys have any questions about any of that, of what I said, and I'm also in Montreal. So if anyone's planning to move to Montreal, you can talk to me about anything.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And Scott will wrap up with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Wiley. My name is Scott Sturt, and I'm the founder and CEO of Venture for Canada, which is a national charity that fosters the entrepreneurial skills and mindset of young Canadians. Over the past decade, Venture for Canada has supported over 10,000 young people to launch their careers across the country from coast to coast to coast. And we've raised over $80 million in funding to support our work from institutions like Government of Canada, RBC, TD Bank, Scotiabank, and many different family foundations. I'm also the author of a new book called The Uncertainty Advantage, which is published by Dunder and Press, and it came out last week and is number one in career book on Amazon.ca. And the Uncertainty Advantage is a guide for early career professionals to learn to develop a better relationship with uncertainty because we live in radically uncertain times, but we can learn to develop a better relationship with uncertainty through things like entrepreneurial mindset, self-compassion, and fostering anti-fragility. And yeah, thanks to Shitangshi for the invite. Shitangshi and I go way back, almost close to 20 years. We are in middle school together. So great to be here. And mental health is something that I care a lot about. A lot of reason why I wrote my book, The Uncertainty Advantage, is my experience struggling with uncertainty when I was at different points in my entrepreneurial journey and eventually getting diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder and going through really intensive treatment and a really tough year. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs can face mental health challenges, including myself at different points, and passionate about how to talk about these issues. So, and how to help people better cope with uncertainty, but also have positive mental health while pursuing an entrepreneurial path. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for the amazing and very impressive introductions from all of you. Just on a logistical side, the panel is scheduled to be about 45 minutes or an hour. So I have some questions prepared for the panelists, and then we'll open the floor for the participants as well to ask questions at the end. And as a note for the panelists, I was explaining this to Grisha and Jess before, but it's super open-ended questions. We're not necessarily geared in a certain direction, so it's more of a discussion. And please feel free, if it reminds you of a story at all that doesn't necessarily have to do with the question, to take it in that direction. So we'll start with Scott, if that's okay with you, and you'll realize the open-ended nature. But just to kick it off, why is mental health important to you as something to talk about and in your own life?
I mean, I think what I've seen firsthand from my own lived experience is that when you don't have positive mental health, your ability to live a fulfilling, like impactful life is like so negatively kind of like impacted. I think that if you want to build companies that are significant, that are healthy to work in, then you have to think around founder mental health. And I think the more that we focus on fostering founders who aren't just successful, but who are mentally in a healthy place, I think the more that you're going to have people who pursue entrepreneurship that aren't burnt out, that are have good relationships with family members. And at the same time, I think you're going to have more founders who build really successful companies as well. Because I think it's so much harder to build something significant if you're really struggling mentally. So that's why mental health matters to me in the context of entrepreneurship.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Amanda, I'll ask you the same question.
Yeah, mental health from as long as I can remember has always been something I've been passionate about just because in my culture, in my background of where how I was raised, we just didn't talk about it. And I always felt like there was something missing, like we needed to talk about it. I come from a background of just war-torn survivors. My parents are both in a country that they experienced a lot of PTSD. So growing up, I knew it was something was wrong, but within, within how I was raised, but didn't quite know how to put my finger on it. So I say all the time, I study psychology to learn how to love the people that are hard to love, because I want to love the people that are hard to love. I don't necessarily want to, yeah, I guess, ignore pain. And so I've been just super passionate about mental health ever since I could remember. And so fast forward going into schools and working with students, I saw a lot of my own upbringing coming out in my students, and it was really something that touched me in that way that I was like, hey, I need to focus more on helping people heal. Because if we're not healthy in the classroom, we're not going to learn anything. We're not going to give back to society. We're not going to do anything productive if we're not taking care of ourselves. So, and I've also been through burnout. I've been through you name it. So I really now prioritize my health. I prioritize my physical health. I prioritize my mental health so much that it's possible to do what I do today because that's a priority for me. So yeah, just want everyone else to also kind of learn from that and not essentially go through what I went through to learn.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with all of us. Garisha, I'll turn the question over to you now. We'll probably just kind of go around to all the panelists if that's okay.
Yeah, mental health is a very big part of my life. As someone who has struggled with a lot of trauma, and especially as a woman and a South Asian, I have had to deal with several ups and downs, mostly downs. And I am passionate about bringing change, especially for South Asians, because this is something that is not really talked about, especially from the lens of patriarchy. Um, yeah, it's, I don't, as someone who, has tried to end my life earlier on in my life, I don't want there to be another version of me going through that alone. Yeah, and that's why I'm doing this.
Thank you so much for sharing, Grisha. And Jess, if you want to finish off with this question.
Sure. So, growing up, mental health, similar to what some people have expressed, wasn't talked about. It was the elephant in the room, if you would. As soon as it was brought up, the conversation would quickly shift over to, oh, the weather outside, or something like that. And so, growing up, seeing both myself and my friends who um, often got called really horrible things because teachers, whether it was teachers or people, didn't know the correct terminology to use. They didn't know how to even approach a topic like it. They didn't, um, you, you weren't able to necessarily go to counseling or a therapist due to potentially whether it was a situation where you lived at home or to the long wait lists. It was really when I kind of got to university and started to be more involved in terms of the campus life that I saw how many people were suffering with mental health, and how the university administration really didn't know how to kind of take care of that, especially during COVID. Um, and I wanted to kind of mental health is important to me because I think without a positive mental health or positive well-being, it makes it so much harder to do everything else and has such an impact on your life and everything you do. And I wanted to make sure that no one would ever have to kind of go through the same scenario as my friends and I went through. Um, and that people knew it's okay to have a bad mental health day. There's nothing, it doesn't make you less normal. There's nothing wrong with being neurodivergent. There's nothing wrong with having something like ADHD. It's part of what makes you you and how it kind of can help people thrive in their own ways as well. So,
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing. Turning a little bit more to some specific questions, and this one will just kind of, I'll open it to the floor, and whoever wants to jump in can. But as entrepreneurs and innovators, I would imagine that your ventures come with perhaps some pretty high highs and low lows in terms of success, teamwork, etc. So I was just wondering if you could touch a little bit on how you personally navigate these emotions and what tools you may have in your toolbox that you've learned over the years that could be helpful for young innovators that are starting out.
I think I'll go ahead on this one. I think one of the things that, especially now, is um, using potentially AI-based tools to help find resources and do the research for you so you don't have to spend um, you know, 10 hours trying to find a counselor or therapist using um, resource databases like Kids Help Phones, like um, I remember Amanda when we were working back with TAP and Anna for Teachers, right, is that resource database of how much time it took us to go through, right? And no one should ever have to exhaust themselves looking for mental health support. I think also like another tool is like connecting with your community. Like there are people that want to support you. There are people that potentially have been through similar things. So
Wonderful, thank you.
I can maybe add on that. I think for an entrepreneur, a lot of us have a different why um, of what we're doing and what solution we're bringing to the world. And a lot of us do it from a maybe a lens of I need to prove something to myself or prove something to somebody else. And I think that route takes us further away from taking care of ourselves than if when you're doing it for a reason of coming from, a place of I know myself, I know how my limits, I know what I'm capable of, and I'm gonna, produce something for the world to leave it better than I found it. Um, so I think for entrepreneurs, it's really just first asking yourself why you're doing what you're doing, and then setting your schedule and your life around that. Um, yeah, because if there's no direction, you will easily burn out. Um, you'll forget why you're doing what you're doing, and then it just spirals from there. Yeah, and I speak from experience when before I even started my startup, like I was on a rat race, like I was just trying to figure things out, but I wasn't coming at it from a place of healthy awareness. I was coming from a place of trying to prove something. So yeah, just trying to figure out what are you doing this for? And then working your life around that, like scheduling in like time for yourself, non-negotiable time, so you can be prepared for what the world will throw at you when you're as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of curveballs.
Thank you. And Grisha or Scott, if you want to add anything at all, feel free, but we also have other questions. Okay, perhaps I'll move on to the other questions we have. And Amanda, you were actually just touching on this a little bit. I would imagine I'm not an entrepreneur, so you are all very admirable for the work you're doing. But I would imagine that it's not always a typical 9 to 5, and your venture probably in some ways is like your baby, and it can be all encompassing, which is wonderful and probably is part of what has made you all so successful. But I was just wondering if you could, and yeah, Amanda, you did explain this a little bit more specifically. How do you set those boundaries to ensure that while you maintain that passion for your project, you also are taking the time for yourself, your family, your friends to ensure that your mental health isn't compromised during the entrepreneurial journey?
I think one thing for me that's super important, I think related to watch out. I mentioned a couple. I'll go rapid fire. But one is exercise. I think just keeping like physically like active. For me, that's like 6 times a week, trying to exercise for like 30 minutes or an hour, but it's really important for mental health. I'd say two is like sleeping, like just sleeping like 8 hours like a night is really important for like mental health for me. I find if I'm sleeping less than 7 regularly, then I feel like it really starts to take a toll on me. I'd say a third thing is time for like relationships, whether that's with like a spouse or friends or family members. But ensuring you're having that time, I think, is really important. And I would say maybe the fourth thing that is important is just like having some time for like recreation. Like that could be TV watching, reading, but just not being overscheduled. I feel like when I feel like I have no control over my schedule and that it's just like overpacked with stuff, then it feels like I don't have control over like there's too much stuff going on. So ensuring that you're not ensuring you have like time blocked off as free, I think is like important. Yeah, so those would be some things to me that are good kind of mental health hygiene things.
Thank you, Scott. Those are all I'm a student right now, so I'm also noting down some of those as well because that is very, very important things for sure. And yes, please feel free to add to any of those if you have strategies or things you've worked that have worked well in the past for you.
Yeah, if there's one point to hop in here, for me, as silly as it may sound to someone, is Google Calendar is also like scheduling in time for myself. that I will, especially on busy days, put in blocks of time, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes, to be like, hey, grab food. Like, grab what? Like, I know you have 5 meetings today, but you need food. Like, these kind of things. And is also like reminding people that, whether it's people I work with or sometimes friends, to be like, hey, it's okay to take time away. I know you have all these things to do, but you need to make sure that you're okay. Um, things like, if someone's like, I have to vacuum, I have to write this essay, I have to do this report or this thing for work, is make sure to like schedule time in for you. One of the things that I usually do is like spending time with my partner, and even then it's letting them know of like, hey, I might be doing work things while we're talking. If it's a really busy day, and being able to have someone to just like say like, Jess, no, you've done enough work today. Like, I know you want to get this thing done, but you need to, take time for you, um, and things like that. So
Yeah, I think those are all very important things that Jess and Scott touched on and kind of all seem to stem back to the idea of pausing, be that just having that free time for yourself or pausing and exercising, but having the chance or giving yourself the chance to take a step back in order to maintain a healthy work balance life. And Grisha or Amanda, if you have anything to add, please feel free.
Yeah, I think before you get to the question of work-life balance, I think it's important to answer the question of who are you, and like really get to the crux of like why you're doing what you're doing. Like ask yourself what your priorities are. Like if you're very career oriented, that's fine, but like why are you doing that, right? And where is it leading you? What is your purpose? So that like you're in tune with your soul, you're attuned to your own emotions. And when you're attuned to everything and you're congruent with yourself, then even in situations where you're not mentally okay, you can still strive through. You know?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of mentioned everything in terms of how to prioritize yourself, how to take care of yourself through it. Yeah, I would always go back to asking myself as well, like, um, if I do this, what am I saying yes or no to? As well, if I do, like really being meticulous with where you give your time and energy has been like life-saving for me, and I think Scott mentioned this too, like really putting time aside for family, like intentional time where you're like, this is my only 3 hours, like no, it's non-negotiable. um and making sure everyone else is on the same page with you, because when I was in the midst of it, I was literally building my marketing agency alongside my startup. I had no like time was in like I had no 9 to 5. I had no sense of time. Like I was up at 1 a.m. working on a video, and then like, waking up at another time, like 11 one night. Like it was just all over the place. And I specifically remember though, I was like, no, okay, but like Sundays at this time are time with my brother, and Fridays at this time are time with my boyfriend. Like I kept those like super, super non-negotiable. And that's what kept me going for that long. And it still keeps me going. Like now my Sundays are like my meal prep days. Like no one takes that away from me. I also invest a lot of money and time into myself now, like my hair, my physical, like everything. Like and I'm unapologetic about it. Whereas before I wouldn't think it was important. Which I learned from a long time of seeing my like a therapist then. um, I had a lot of self-hatred, so that doesn't really let you love yourself in the right ways. It takes you to burnout. It takes you to trying to prove yourself to someone else. Meanwhile, you need to be focused on, yeah, growing yourself in healthy ways of, okay, I need sleep, like literally back to basics. I need sleep, I need proper food, I need proper community. But knowing that you're worthy of that. And she said a lot of depression comes from just a lack of self-esteem. Like you literally just have no self-esteem. You can't care for yourself. You can't, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, and getting to know yourself. Take that time to get to know yourself too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much all for those really incredible answers. The next question is a little bit more about teams. So, as innovators, entrepreneurs, I'm just wondering if you could touch on how you foster a healthy work environment for your team that you're working on, while also ensuring that you're managing your own mental health and not letting that fall by the wayside for the sake of your team.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, I think one thing that's important is like being authentic and like vulnerable as a leader. So, like I remember in my case of like when I was diagnosed with OCD and going through really tough mental health experiences, was being candid with the team a little bit of like, hey, I'm going through a really challenging time. And I think the more that you have leaders that are honest and vulnerable about the challenges that they go through, I think the more that that gives people implicit and explicit permission to like talk about their challenges. So that's one thing that's important. I think two is like getting people to do mental health like training. We've had CAMH come in and do trainings for team, and there's various a lot that I've learned in terms of like how do you navigate mental health leaves as an employer. And I think back to this one training like 5 years ago that was really helpful. So I think that's a second. And the third is in a leadership role. How do you try to foster like an environment where people want to work there? And that means trying to be empathetic as a manager of yeah, just meeting people kind of where they're at and trying to foster a workplace that like you would want to work in. So those are a few things I think you can do from in a management role.
Yeah, I think those are really important, that kind of idea of leading by example. And if you're vulnerable, then other people on your team will also feel comfortable sharing similar things, especially in a managerial role. So thank you, Scott.
I'll just add to that because the vulnerability piece is super relevant. We just did a book study at my place from Brene Brown's books. We just got everyone to read a certain Brene Brown book and just come with your findings. And a lot of that was about leadership and leading with vulnerability. But there's also a caveat to that, like, yes, lead with vulnerability, but make sure you've processed your own emotions before you dump that on anyone else. You can be honest with your experiences, you can be open with your experiences, but as long as you've processed that already in your body and your mind, and with maybe with the help of therapy, like yeah, because you can tell when there's a team dynamic where the person is bringing all of their um, issues into the team versus someone who's processed it and is sharing out of experience and support. So I think that is super key. And what I always do whenever I work in a team that I'm leading is your identity is not attached to this. And so let's make sure of that before you take any other tasks on. Like just separating yourself and your identity from the job or from the team or from anything not that's not tangible. Um, yeah, I would say that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was really, really great insights. Grisha or Jess, do you have anything to add? If not, we can. Oh, perfect. I see you're both unmuted. Okay.
I think it's important to also consider inclusion for neurodivergent individuals, introverts, people that are of color, especially if you are a man. It is important to listen to women and actually use empathy, like step into their shoes and be like, maybe I don't understand this, but let me ask them questions to understand more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that note on empathy is very big. And yeah, important to do, even if you're not from the same background or experiences, just trying to understand how that person may feel if you were in their shoes.
I think having, I know we do it at YSC and I've done it with other teams before, is having like a space where people can talk about non-work things. So being able just to have a positive vibes channel where people, if they find a meme or something that they, helps them get through their day, then being able to give them that space to share it if they'd like. Definitely seconding the lead by example. I know as a leader, I'm guilty of apologizing for needing to take breaks sometimes. And in reality, no one should have to feel, sorry for grabbing food or taking a few minutes. And it's even myself learning how to kind of cultivate that among the team of saying like, hey, you need a day to like to take time to yourself to deal with things. Absolutely. And being able to have those redundancies or systems in place so that way if someone needs to take time, they're not coming back going, oh my God, I've missed so much work. Like everyone's, tasks are slowed down because of me. It's being able to say like, hey, take your time. We got this. Um, and even in like a campus setting as well is having those conversations with your friends and having conversations around mental health with people because truly sometimes people don't know that you're suffering if you don't say anything to them because they may go, this is potentially someone's normal behavior. Especially if you don't know someone, it can be very hard. Like people sometimes will meet me for the first time and say, oh, Jess stumbles over her words sometimes. Oh, it's just, her usual thing. The reality is I stumble over my words when I'm nervous or when I'm anxious or going into like sometimes meeting new people. And if you meet people where they're at, then you get to kind of foster that healthy relationship. And then it potentially leads to them being willing to have a conversation about mental health with someone like their boss, with a coworker. Also like organizations like CAMH, like I think Working Minds or Living Works does assist training, um, have all these courses and sometimes free courses that workplaces just go and take. And if it's not something offered at a workplace, mention it to your boss, mention it to like your supervisor and say like, hey, can we do this training? I think it's super important. Um, I've seen, and I apologize a while, you can cut me off anytime, like for rambling is I've seen scenarios on campus where stuff is only put into place after horrible situations happen, which shouldn't be, some of us talked about this before the panel, is like, it shouldn't be like that at all. It should be a preventative, essentially like care and fostering that system of like, hey, before you get to your breaking point, reach out for help and walking campus leaders through those trainings of like how to support students because in turn that could help them support themselves and help them learn more about themselves and yeah, again, sorry for rambling, but yeah.
I wasn't rambling at all. Like very good points about the educational aspect, but also how if you first meet someone, you may not know they're struggling, but at the same time, even the people that you do know, it looks different on everyone, mental health struggles. So having that open communication and just checking in non-invasive ways, but really asking how people are is super important. I'm going to take a little pause here for my questions and just see if any of the participants have any questions for the innovators or more open-ended ones that they would like to know, yeah, as young entrepreneurs and involved in this world. So I'm going to take a break from talking. And feel free at all just to unmute yourself. No need to raise hands if you want. And then we can always continue on if there aren't questions right now.
Can I speak quickly? Yeah, I was just wondering, this can be to anyone, but is there, for me, like personally as an athlete and as someone who's had like the privilege of personalized coaching and those type of things, there's lots of pressure, right? Like even as an athlete, when you play someone who's like in an underdog sort of sense, you have the advantage, you have more privilege, you tend to feel more pressure on yourself. Is that a thing common for everyone? Like when you have more opportunities, more resources, is there a way to not put yourself as the person who has more pressure? I'm not sure if you understand my question, but
Can I ask a clarifying question, Oliver?
yeah, sorry, that was really unclear.
No, it was clear. I just want to make sure I understood it. Sometimes we have different understandings. Yeah, do you mean that like because you have all these resources, people are maybe like more dependent on you and they expect more of you?
Yeah, like have you ever felt when you're in a better position, you have more pressure on yourself to do better, and that sometimes creates some mental health issues, not issues, but like problems, pressure, stress, those type of things?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I'm not going to speak for everyone here, but I totally see where you're coming from with that. And it's so normal. I think the more we feel like the people around us just expect more, the more we expect more of ourselves. It's just so common that it's who you surround yourself with, right? You adapt to their mindset and you take on what their mindset is, even if it's maybe not the best. It's just the rule of psychology. Like you're surrounded by something that will impact you, will influence you. Um, I think it's so key to the fact that you're even asking this question sounds like you've already done your homework in a way of like self-awareness, like figuring out, hey, like there's something that's not right here. Like I'm feeling this tension towards something that probably shouldn't affect me. So I think you're already on the right track with asking that question, and I think I've faced it for sure. I mean, when I got funding for our startup, like I was in a whole other headspace, and there was so much pressure on me because now there's like money involved, and now there's people, and there's stakeholders, and like it's just it's a whole other ball game. So you're not crazy, for lack of better words, for feeling like there's more pressure on you with more resources.
I think similar going off. Oh, sorry, Kobe, if you want to go ahead.
No, it was a different question, so feel free. Go ahead first.
I think kind of going off what Amanda said, very much the people you surround yourself with. I can even like one of the things I do with friends is we play like video games like Civilization and those, and when you're around people sometimes who are so good at those kind of things, like I have friends, that if they weren't working full time, probably could do it potentially as a career, and you feel the pressure to kind of like, oh, I'm not doing as good as these people. They're not having fun because I'm doing, potentially worse than them. The reality is being able to kind of sit down with yourself and say like, I'm trying my hardest, if you're in a spot of how can I get better, is also recognizing that yes, there's sometimes things you can do to get better, but that you are doing a really good job in a sports sense of like, I remember helping coach archery in high school, and people would say like, oh, I don't have access to some of the equipment that this person has, that they were able to go out and buy, that makes me worse. I'm like, no, that skill wise, that does not make you worse than someone. Focus on you, what you can do, and asking for help. In case some cases where like I know growing up, even doing things like Girl Guides, kids who didn't have experience camping because they weren't able to afford, is being able to like have that connection and potentially build the relationship of like, hey, after practice or after like our meeting, I notice you're having a hard time with this skill. Do you mind if I show you a few tips and tricks or um, things like that? And so that way you're helping to even the playing field, so to speak, give everyone that equal opportunity, equal footing, um, as well as potentially helping you realize the gaps potentially in your own skills or things like that. Sometimes teaching and coaching really makes us look inward on ourselves and say, like, especially like I know I've said to people, put your mental health first. And in saying that, it makes me look back on myself, go, am I putting my mental health first? Am I doing something like that? So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I think those are both really good points about being kind to yourself that Jess, you were touching on a bit, and also Amanda, that makes a lot of sense when like the things you were saying, Oliver, about how when things get successful and when you have coaching and you get a grant, like that's exciting and that's the direction you want to be going in, but that also comes with maybe a bit more pressure because, as you were saying, Amanda, the stakes do get higher and that can be very tricky to navigate. So yeah, checking in with yourself and is very important. Kobe, I know you had your hand up, so I'll let you go.
Yeah, I was gonna mention really great points and what you're touching on, Jess, at the end about like helping people and lifting them up. That's kind of exactly what Oliver's project is all about. So that's really cool how the connection worked there. I guess my question for everyone is, um, for difficult conversations like this on mental health, and I definitely recognize the importance of it. It's sometimes still difficult for people who are not as courageous as you all here sitting on the panel and actually telling your stories. How can someone like me, or other people likewise, be more confident in making this like an open topic to kind of talk about? That's one of the things I've always been curious because I'm sure everyone is affected in some way by mental health throughout their lives, but how can we make it easier for just the regular person to be able to share, learn, and empower others around this topic?
I think one thing, as I've had similar conversations with, I used to help moderate a few Discord servers, and a couple of the admins reached out over the years saying, like, how do I foster this kind of communication without, um, without putting their own safety and their own mental well-being at risk. And it's to be honest, despite, this is my third panel like this over the years, it's just as hard as it was the first time. The nerves still happen, and the nerves are okay. It could still, the reason, to be honest, I turned my camera off is because I started to cry because it's emotional. It's a lot to sometimes go back and think of the experiences, and even things like Amanda mentioned, how stressful sometimes getting a grant can be, the fact that people depend on you sometimes. And that's sometimes a hard thing to deal with. And when you're in, whether it's a leadership role or even trying to have the conversation is, this is going to sound cheesy, but talking into your mirror, practicing, writing down notes, I can tell you the amount of times I go into a call like this and I'll have like the YC staff teams used to seeing like my notepads and notes all over my desk of like, hey, just don't forget these things. Or here's a couple points so that way if stuff pops up and you get nervous or you need to step away, being able to have those. Also, like, it's okay to not be ready to have these conversations. For some people, it takes years. Have people I've interacted with in the mental health space at Kids Help Phone that it took them years to even start having the conversation, whether it's with their family or partner or friends. I think little by little as well is potentially like starting to, just like when you might say to someone like, do you prefer coffee or tea? Or like this sports team is like, hey, are you in like, what do you drink to start your day? Um, and in mental health wise, it's like, hey, how are you doing? In like, and like an emoji, yes, no, um, and then sometimes based on theirs, you can gauge where people are feeling of like, is this person ready to open up? Um, do I need to potentially give them a bit of time? And just really like, apologies, is putting yourself first, is taking Amanda and I think Scott and Grisha mentioned this of like looking where you're at and your own experiences and processing that before starting to have that conversation with someone. Also, and anyone can stop me anytime, by the way, I'm sorry, is it's okay to let people know you're not a therapist or a psychologist. It's absolutely like if someone comes to you and says like, and you're worried for their safety, is like a hey, I recommend you, Kids Help Phone has their crisis line of here's, I'm not saying you have to call them. Here's if you need to talk to someone or if your safety is at danger. I'm not a trained psychologist or a therapist. I'll do what I can to help my friends, but being cognizant of there are people and supports ready to help in a professional capacity. Sometimes it's just helping people make that first connection or that first step.
I think it first, as someone who has dealt with exactly what you're asking, Kobe, this is actually the first time in a panel in a public space that I'm even talking about my own mental health struggles and stuff. So I totally understand where you're coming from. This shit is scary. But like I think it first starts from yourself. So um, at least from my personal journey, it was from creating affirmations. For example, as a movie buff, I used to say things like, I am the lead to my movie. And even if you don't believe it, just keep saying it again and again and again. And like be self-aware of like when you catch yourself talking a certain way, whether it's like negative self-talk, just call your own BS out and just be like, yo, don't be talking like that, right? And just call yourself out, but be your friend. Like have different versions of yourself. So like connect with your inner child and have like maybe a little character in your head that helps you, as Jess said, to talk in a mirror, right? But this is more so you can use like meditation or visualization, but like connect with the different parts of yourself, whether it's the parts of yourself you like, or it's that shadow part that you're not even aware of yet. But like I think when you connect with those parts, you become much more stronger within yourself. So, especially as an Asian, you probably understand it's hard to talk to your family, even friends, and stuff like that. So it's first having the courage and bravery to talk to your like little you, 5-year-old you, and how compassionate you can talk to that person. And this is a long ass journey that's going to have to take place. And you're going to have to really like befriend yourself, even if no one understands you. Even if people don't listen to you, you're going to have to advocate for yourself. Um, just stand by that. Just be your best friend. Be your everything that you want other people to be. Just be that, you know? And it's okay to cry. Like, as someone who has such a hard time being vulnerable, open, and crying, I can tell you that you will get there. Like, I'm here today, so you can too, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much for the answers. Wow, those were incredible. I literally, as you were saying that, Grisha, I wrote down your little saying about you are the lead to your own movie. I will definitely be using that. That is very good. And Charles, I also saw your comment in the chat for those that can't see it. Learning is unlearning, letting go of thoughts and habits that no longer serve you so you can grow. I think that's also very important. Oliver, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure if we're short on time, but I just have a really quick question for entrepreneurship because I know that for sure there'll be times when obviously you hope that things are always going good, but there are times when things are not quote unquote getting better and things get messy and scrambled. So during these times, how do you measure what getting better actually means? And even if it's not, how do you deal with that? Because there's definitely ups and downs in everything we do.
I can chime in on this. Oliver, your questions are awesome, by the way. Yeah, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster for sure. It's like not even in the fine print, it's in bold. It's not going to be what you expect at all, and it grows you 10 times more than you think in your personal life as well as your career. So I think handling the lows as much as the highs is the people I've noticed that have been able to get far, they have a neutral zone. Like they function from a place of yes, the highs are high, the lows are lows, but I'm not gonna be taken by both, right? And they celebrate the highs, they grieve the lows, they don't pretend they don't exist, but they're stable in the sense of they're not shakable because they stick to their why again, like going back to your why. And it's okay to say this is no longer serving me. Like I don't want to do like 4 years in, maybe you've got a lot of pressure on you with a bunch of people betting on you, and you're saying, well, no, this interests me now. It's okay to follow that why, because at the end of the day, like you need to fight for who you are, because you're gonna only have yourself for your whole life. Yeah, I think the lows are low and the highs are high, but having that neutral zone where you're stable and you're depending on yourself and you know who you are, will take you a long way.
Yeah, I'd say maybe a few things I would add is I think one is that a lot of I think really impactful entrepreneurial people like embrace a ton of uncertainty and risk, but they have certain stabilizers in their life that enable them to do that. That's often like a really supportive like spouse. That's like often supportive like friends and family members. And I think that it's important to think about like it's hard to embrace uncertainty in every aspect of your life. And there's a lot of stress and uncertainty when you're an entrepreneur. So I think a lot of people have those kind of protective factors. I think a lot of really successful entrepreneurial people too are really disciplined. So they build these habits that then protect them in terms of mental health, like whether it's fitness or sleep. Like they're just like a lot of, not all, but many entrepreneurs are very, yeah, disciplined in their habits. And I think that that can serve them well. I'd say, another is that I think a lot of entrepreneurs too have a sense, like the more successful ones have like a strong sense of like personal why and like why are they doing this and they're like values driven. I think the more that you are values driven, I think, and it's not about you, it's not about becoming a billionaire, the more that I think you can like survive the ups and downs. Like I think if you really care about like the extrinsic rewards of entrepreneurship, those are things that are beyond your control. And I think it makes you more vulnerable to challenges. If you focus more on the intrinsic value of entrepreneurship, of like making the world a better place, of the learning you get along the way, I think the more that you are likely to navigate entrepreneurship with like less kind of challenges. I share that also in the sense that I mean I can still be pulled by the extrinsic things, but I think also that some of the mental health challenges I had in my 20s, I think were exacerbated by an overfixation on the extrinsic and not enough focus on the intrinsic.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think those are really, yeah, excellent points about the high highs and low lows. And Amanda, what you were saying of having that neutral ground that you can go back to, and a bit of what Scott you were saying as well, that like neutral space might be kind of fueled by discipline and also that intrinsic, why are you doing this? What can I control? As opposed to, especially in a very unpredictable world right now, external things that we just will never be able to control fully. So I'm just cognizant of time. I hate to cut this conversation off because I feel like I'm learning so much from the panelists and the awesome questions, Kobe, Oliver, and Charles, you added in the comment section. But I just have a final question for the panelists, if that's okay. And again, very open-ended, and you've touched on a lot of, I'm sure, maybe what the answer would be already, but I just was wondering what advice you would give to YSC innovators, some of which are participants here, about taking care of their mental health as they move forward in their journeys. Is there something you wish you knew when you were starting out that you look back now and you're like, oh, that would have been pretty huge to know?
I think if there's one thing I can look back and kind of tell myself about like, and this will be like 6 years ago, so I'm probably like dating myself a little bit here, but when I first participated in YSC and was even contemplating starting this journey, is like it's okay not to know where you're going to end up. And it's okay to not end up in the same place you thought you would. Um, I can tell you 6 years ago, this was not something I saw myself doing. I, would be the kind of person to say like, nope, nope, I never want to present on a panel. It's not me. I'm not qualified. There's so many more qualified people, and it's if the second piece I can give to people is um, listen to the people around you um, when they tell you about if you're doing a good job. And what I mean by that is when friends are saying to you, and similar to what some of us, I could say to some of the panelists is like, thank you for sharing your story and your strength, is listen to those words, being able to, and I know I'm a little bit hypocritical of this, is because the team knows very well that I'll, say to them like, you're doing a good job, and then I'll turn around and like have a hard time accepting my own compliments, is like surround yourself with people who support you, people that you can have these conversations with, people that, um, when I say mean best for you, is like they're not going to be there for the wrong reasons. So many people sometimes will surround themselves with like people who maybe they are friends because I can think of a childhood example of like friends with kids who had the newest Xbox, right? It's not surrounding yourself with those people, it's surrounding yourself with people of like being able to have a conversation with mental health and saying, hey, I'm having a rough time, or similar to Scott, what you said about uncertainty, like, hey, I don't know where I want to go in 5 years. I don't know what I want to do with my life. Um, Also, like, I'm trying to think of the way to word this in the sense of like, you are here for a reason. And what I mean by that is sometimes people will apply for jobs and they'll go, I'm not qualified, what's the sense of me applying? If you were chosen for a job, you were chosen for a reason. Certain skills can grow, they can always be taught, but what you sometimes can't teach people is that passion, that spark, that like, why do you want to be here? Yes, you can help people find it, but it's being able to, and I know from meeting with some of the teams this summer of like, why do you want to do this project? What motivates you to do it? Beyond the prize money, how does this affect you in your life? Is this helping you to figure out what you want to do? I realize that was a very like loop-de-loop answer there, but really just making sure to build the network of support around you. And if you don't have that network, is like starting to build it early on, rather than, oh, I'll focus on my mental health tomorrow or I'll focus on my mental health next year, is putting yourself first.
Thank you, Jess. That's a yeah, really excellent points about embracing uncertainty, but even amidst that, having confidence in yourself and your journey and continuing to put yourself first because that everything else should follow, but mental health is paramount. Amanda, Grisha, or Scott, if you have anything to add for advice for your younger self, please feel free.
Yeah, just similar to what Jess had just said, really just invest in yourself. I know it's really hard as an entrepreneur to have the means to, or the time or energy, but you're only going to go so far as how much you're investing in yourself. Because without you, there's no startup. Without you, there's no relationships. Without you, there's no future. So really just making it a point to invest in yourself. I wish I had done a little bit more of that in my beginnings, versus now, but it's never too late.
Thank you so much. That is a yeah, I mean, it seems probably like it could be overlooked, but as you said it, I was like, yeah, well, without you, there is no company. It's not like you're yeah, part as you're just starting out, especially. So investing in yourself and taking the time is definitely key.
I think I would like to tell people to really be okay with not being okay. And sometimes you can be lost and it's okay as long as like you feel like you are connected with yourself. It's okay to go to therapy. It's okay to connect with mentors and whoever you connect with, even on an emotional level, and just be upfront and be like, I'm feeling this way. Like, how can I like deal with this shit, right? Um, and even anyone, whether it's your family, even if you don't, if you come from a dysfunctional family, make that family for yourself, whether it's with friends or even a pet. Um, have that feeling of belonging within yourself, and it's okay to say, you know what, I'm not confident in myself, but I'm just gonna try this out. Like, just face that and just try it. And sometimes you might feel like, I want to puke right now because I'm shit scared right now, but like, just do it, because you live one life, you don't want to regret it, so just do it. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Grisha, for your vulnerability in that answer and also throughout all of your answers. Really appreciate it.
I would, yeah, I'd agree to that. That was great, Grisha. I would add, I think, just the importance of self-compassion. I think when I was younger and still sometimes am, can be really hard on myself. And I wasn't until my more late 20s or into 30s that I realized that I have like very perfectionistic tendencies. And I just say like speak to yourself in like a nicer way. Don't be so demanding all the time. And yeah, that like sometimes things aren't going to work out, and when they don't work out or when you mess up, say that's okay. That was a good learning. On to next time. And yeah, I think self-compassion can be really a superpower, especially when you're pursuing an entrepreneurial path where you're going to have a lot of slip-ups, and that's okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's a really great point in the entrepreneurial journey or beyond. Just even sometimes I say to myself, I'm like, what would I say to my friend if they told me the exact same story? And it's oftentimes a very different answer than what my internal thoughts are saying, for sure. Um, I hate to do this. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I just want to say thank you so, so much to our incredible panelists, Jess, Scott, Grisha, Amanda. I learned so much from all of you and really, really just appreciate your vulnerability and generosity participating on this panel. It means a lot. And thank you so, so much for sharing your journeys.
Wiley, if I can pass along one thank you before, I know Tangshu potentially wanted to say something as well, and yes, I'm going to put them on the spot after this, is thank you for even being willing to facilitate this panel and for the time and work you spent helping coordinate, as well as time out of your evening and to sit down and researching the questions and taking into account all of our feedback and even meeting with us before the panel to make sure people were comfortable. I can't tell you how much as a panelist that made it easier, even knowing that like the times where I did almost break down and get emotional, that it was okay to, and you facilitated such that like warm, welcoming kind of atmosphere. So a huge thank you to you, Wiley.
Oh no, I had the easy job. You guys made it very easy. Thank you. I'll pass it to Shitang Shu, and if anyone does have to hop off, we are past time, so please feel free.
Thank you, Wiley. And I just want to like reiterate what Jess said. I really appreciate you for, and Jess as well, for navigating this challenging conversation, but so important one. I also want to like personally thank Jess, Amanda, Garisha, Scott, all of you folks that professionally and personally helped. We also try to understand that importance of mental health. I'll be honest with you. I think, you know, what you said, Jess, that sometimes you know, it's like the topic is right there, it's everywhere, but you know, it's so easy to try to just ignore it and be like, oh, let's talk about weather today. And I think all of you have helped me recenter myself even beyond this panel, and in this panel, just kind of reminding of just how important these conversations are. I want to especially show appreciation and gratitude for the care, bravery, and vulnerability so many of you showed today. And really for also just giving us that bit of pep talk, you know, that spirit, you know, just do it. And, you know, it's okay not to be okay, self-compassion, all of those things. I think I will take so much away from this conversation and leave knowing there's a lot more for me to learn and unlearn. So thank you, folks. Really, really appreciate it. And I'm grateful to you all.
Yes, and if anyone would like access to the recording, panelists included, please feel free. And also, I believe all of you have the address to the Hello account. So if anyone wants